So that kind of freedom, as you know, a lot of decisions are made fast. And so went to a government school or with all the challenges which we see in our education system. Now, being a self-learner throughout, the conviction on self-learning, the first set of products which we have launched, the first 5 years of the company was defined by the learning apps, and learning apps which is created for self-learning or active learning. There is no teacher involved. That's in a country which is obsessed with spoon feeding, where unfortunately learning which is still driven by fear of exams and not love for learning. We came out with this product which was all about love for learning, or creating that love for learning, bringing that curiosity back in students. That's mostly from within. So now when I say self-learning, the subjects which were close to me, I used to go deep and learn on my own, and I used to teach kids in the village, students in school, then my friends in college. So because when you are teaching students at very different levels, you are forced to think very deep, and that kind of created and when you teach, you learn more, right? And this has been that continuous process where what started off in like early 2000 as where I used to teach my friends with 35 of them, is to teach them for CAT. It ended up scaling so fast that by the time I took the 6th session, it scaled like a geometric progression. 35 became 1200. By the my 7th session was the auditorium was full. Auditorium in Jyotinivas College in Bangalore. Right. And I never looked back. So this I did during a break when I was working outside as in a ship management firm. Now, some more color on those growing up years. I used to spend most of my time outside classrooms from early morning to late night. I used to play multiple games, and that's where you learn all the real life skills, whether it's performing under pressure, having that killer instinct, and especially if you are playing those games for fun, not when you are not if you are going to a coaching class or a coaching camp and learning those games, where it's like today when if you see what's actually happening is the 5-year-olds in football coaching camps, they are not enjoying. They are under so much pressure. Coach is shouting at them. That's not how you learn a game. If you are doing things for fun, whether it's games, whether it's business, chances are that you will end up doing well, right? And you will do it in such a way that, and that's what I tell investors also, that my first pitch to them is that I'm doing this for fun. And though some of them initially it's a shock when I tell them that I'm doing this business for fun, I also tell them, I immediately tell them that that's exactly the reason why I can build something which, at least the aspiration is to build something which will last for decades. And you can never, if you had met me 10 years back, 15 years back, and if you, most people have told me that we are hungrier than ever before, aspiration is bigger. So, and at the end of the day, if you can find that right balance between ambition, skill, and capital, you can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah, thank you all for joining in. We will begin this session soon. We're just waiting for a few more people. Feel free to introduce yourselves, ask your questions in the chat box. When we have some time, we will put it across to them towards the end. We'll just play one more video of Ashwin Damera, and then we will get the speakers on board.
So let's end with a couple of rapid fire, more to understand your perspective. I know you said you love cricket, and obviously a lot of us are cricket fans. So Rahul Dravid versus Virat Kohli, who would you pick as your personal favorite and why?
Oh God. Look, I think I'll pick Kohli, though I love Rahul Dravid.
Okay.
Because I think Kohli is that, he's that, you can't shout him down, you can't sledge him. Rahul Dravid also you couldn't, because he was sorted between the years, but he never showed any aggression back. Yeah. He took a lot of shit and just, he was sorted. But Kohli to me is like, gives back as good as he gets, and I love that spirit in him.
Okay. And coming to another question on not on cricket, but more about, you referred to that the media frenzy, the world around you, the frenzy around valuation, when there is true growth that's happening. So the question of valuation versus growth, what kind of occupies your mind? And I want a candid answer here. And obviously you'll say growth, but how much of this media frenzy gets to you?
Well, the simple answer is grow, valuation. Simple. This is like a question, some Tenali Rama or something went to some goddess, and the goddess said, look, on one hand I have knowledge, on the other hand I have wealth. Which one do you want? Right? So you are trying to trick me into the 0-1 answer. And of course, Tenali Rama picked both and gulped it down, and then the goddess was perplexed or whatever. This is I don't know if it's even true, probably not. But okay, jokes apart, I just give you a tongue-in-cheek answer. Profitable growth or growth with good unit economics is always going to be appreciated. Today, in a boom cycle, and we're in the middle of an unprecedented boom cycle where there's so much money chasing so few companies, so great time to raise capital. The valuations will be high and kind of, how do I say it? When the tide is high, every boat floats nicely. But when that tide recedes, only the really solid ones will still stay, right? So that really solid business is a high growth business with good unit economics. That's what you should aspire for. That is the input metric. Valuation is an output metric. And if you have that kind of a business, ups and downs, you'll survive all of it.
Survive.
We'll start the session soon. Hi, Madan, you're ready.
Thank you, Vinay. Hi, good evening, everybody. Welcome to this yet another edition of Candid Conversation with a EdTech leader. This time we're delighted to have Vamsi with us, the co-founder and CEO of Vedantu. Vamsi, thanks a lot for sparing your time and to share your journey and learnings with us, and really appreciate your offer saying that, hey, we should not just do this as a one-off event, but we should do it as a regular set of conversations with tech founders, which I think will add tremendous value to our entrepreneurs here. So thank you again for joining us this evening, and without any further ado, let's just get the conversation going. Vinay, if you can just spotlight.
Vamsi, if you can just start your video, we'll add you to the spotlight.
Yeah. So hi, Madan. So I'm able to turn on my audio, but I don't know why I'm not able to turn on my video. It's saying something like host.
Okay. Vinay, can you just check that out? And
yes, we'll do that. Yeah. So I'm just doing this. Just check if you can start your video now.
Now it's come.
Thank you.
I got some message, but still I'm not able to turn on my video. Just a second. No, I'm not. Should I rejoin or something?
Yes.
Rejoin? Yeah.
Okay. Let me do that.
Hi, folks. Feel free to share your questions for the speaker. Introduce yourselves in the chat window. We'll be happy to take some of them.
Oh, absolutely. This is going to be a very interactive session. I'll, of course, kick it off with a few questions to Vamsi, and then we will open it up for questions, Q&A. So please feel free to put it in the chat box. and we'll pick it up at an appropriate time. We have a fairly active EdTech group. So for those of you who are new to the Thai EdTech series, please do. My colleague Vinay will share a link in the chat box. You can click on that link and register yourself to be a part of Thai and to be a part of the EdTech group as well, EdTech Special Interest Group. Okay, Vamsi, we have you back.
Hey, Madan.
Hi. Good to, sometimes I always wonder what happens if Murphy's Law works on Murphy's Law itself.
I was exactly remembering that. In fact, this was just working fine 1 minute back.
Exactly.
Something had to happen.
That's always a good omen as far as I'm concerned. So it's so terrific, Vamsi. So let's just dive in straight into your journey and the whole idea of this conversation over the next hour or so, and we will definitely have we'll do a chat for about 20-25 minutes and then open up for a Q&A interaction with the audience and keep a free-flowing set of questions flowing. But I want to kind of start off, Vamsi, with your journey itself quickly. You graduated from IIT Bombay in 2005 and you started off your first venture in 2006 itself with Lakshya. Did you actually, in between your LinkedIn profile says you worked for 9 months as a management trainee at L&T. Did you actually get to L&T at all, or was just a cooling period for you to get started out with Lakshya? So what happened? Did you always? So two questions for you, right? I get asked by a lot of youngsters in their final year of engineering saying, I don't know whether I want to be an entrepreneur or not. I don't know what the trigger is. What was your case? Did you realize in 2005 that, yes, I want to start something, or how did it all happen?
That's a lovely question. So, no thanks, but Madan, for making me go into the memory lanes and recall that. That was a beautiful, experience and time. But yeah, and hey everyone, lovely to be here, and hopefully would love to take any questions, and hopefully this would be meaningful. But coming back to Madan's question, so Madan, this was way back in 2005, and I'm sure you remember, you guys were our inspiration back then, right? And I'm sure you would know this, that startups were not a known term itself,
yeah.
Right? It was not as glamorous as they are today.
As it is today, yeah.
So this actually was more of a classical case of friendship turning into entrepreneurship for me specifically. So me and my friends, in fact, two of us were childhood friends. We were from 8th grade together. Then I went to IIT Bombay and he went to IIT Roorkee, and the other was his roommate and batchmate respectively. Sort of knew each other, from second year in college. So we used to hang out, used to go to Goa together. So all during that time, the idea was, can we all be together and do something? That was essentially the route, as you asked. But all middle class families succumb to the parental pressure. There was, when we mentioned this idea to the parents, it was more like, isliye thodi na bheja tha IIT, right? The kind of, go do your MBA, do you go to US, the usual stuff.
Yeah.
So we, by the way, I should say this, that we succumbed to the parental pressure as well and joined jobs. L&T was beautiful though. I'm not the best person to comment on this because I don't have a lot of experiences, but L&T was beautiful, took good care. But after 6-7 months, the idea again came back, and we were not really finding it energizing or satiating, to say the least. And again, the idea was to be together, all of us staying, do something. We didn't know what to do. And this was a big turning point, Madan, and I would definitely like to share this because I hope that this would also set some perspective or maybe inspire many of folks who are watching this. So typically, classically, what happens is you think about, you want to do something, you will try on the sidelines, apply for some B competitions and so on and so forth, create some B plan and maybe do some beta testing. And if that things takes shape, then you will probably go and resign and take out your safety net, That's the thought process. And we try to do that ourselves, right? We try to do that. But eventually we realize that, you know what, sometimes it's important to cut the safety net so that out of desperation, you will find something if it's meant to be. And this happened on December. So I still remember, and we, by the way, celebrate this day as Foundation Day.
Lovely.
Anand,
Okay.
my co-founder, Anand, AP, we call him. So he on 13th of December decided that that's it. So just went out and resigned. That's it. Like, just resigned. Right? Absolutely no idea what to do, nothing. And we had to follow suit because then there was no looking back. So we still celebrate the 13th of December as
Lovely.
the Foundation Day of Science. And that was what it is. Like, we just ended up in a small place, and we had no idea whatsoever what to do. There were a few thoughts, of course, but then we figured out, right? And so again, there's no right and wrong thing about it. I just don't want this to be also taken as an inspiration, and then, like, you know, folks just go and resign. Right? The point is sometimes that there is no right time and there is a not wrong.
Exactly.
I mean, you just do it.
Oh, I so resonate with this story. In fact, when we were starting off just 5 years ahead of you guys in 2000, and this is still early days. The mantra was that you'll write a plan, somebody will give you some money, then you quit. And in one such meeting with a very senior industry guy, we were brutally told that you're not entrepreneurs, you're con artists because you're trying to con me out of my money without you taking any risk whatsoever. So the message was, if you're so passionate about this idea or convinced, you quit and start doing something, right? Show me that you have your skin in the game before you can ask me more money. Yeah. But also, Vamsi, 2005 was the height of, I mean, at least the wave, the early waves of the internet era, right? And how did you choose to get into teaching? And with your first venture, Lakshya, which was an offline prep venture.
Yeah. It was offline, and we did it for almost like 7 years.
7 years, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm sure you agree. Like, you know, this was very, very new. I mean, forget internet. Startup was new. Internet was also even more new. So it is not something which, in fact, we had no idea about what to do itself. Forget about internet or not internet. Right? So the idea came about very organically, Madan. So we ended up in a small place, and we were figuring out what to do. And we laugh about it these days. You won't believe we were working on something around retail, and this was even before Reliance Retail and all that. And the idea we were working on is exactly what these days the last mile delivery, right? All these companies are doing, the Instamart and all that. So at that time, frankly, after figuring out and doing some stuff around 2-3 months, good sense prevailed, and we decided not to pursue it because figured out the capital requirement is huge. So while we were doing that, some of the kids, and we were from IIT, so kids got to know about it. We were in a very, very small town called Barnala in Punjab. And because Anand was placed there, there's a big chemical plant there of Trident Group, and he was a chemical engineer, so we were placed there. So we retained this house and we ended up in that place. So that was the story, like why we ended up in Barnala. Although none of us belong from Punjab, forget Barnala. So we were figuring out a few things, and kids got to know that, okay, bhaiya log IIT se hain, so this was December. So March exams were coming up. So they came to us, and their parents were like, "Ki sir, aap to waise bhi kuch kar nahi rahe ho, so you just teach these kids for some time." Like, and we did that, and that was, I think, the starting point, I would say. Right? We did that. Some of the schools got to know about it, so the teachers invited us to take some awareness sessions in the school. And while we did some 7-8 of these sessions, we realized big time that the awareness level in these remote tier 3, tier 4 locations is like out of whack. They did nothing, right? So we did that. One is obviously it added value, but for us it actually did a lot more. The sense of satiation and satisfaction which we felt while we were doing this was special, and that prompted us to probably continue a little bit of that. But still, this was not I would say the big turning point actually came the next year. So some 32 odd kids came after their exams because their parents got to know and they probably liked something. So there was some 36 odd kids cohort, which we sort of said that let's just teach them informally. 36, 11 of them got through the top 5 colleges in the country, the top 5 IITs.
Wow.
Out of 36 from this small town. That was a turning point, I would say, Madan, because we were not experienced in teaching. We were like hardly 21, 22 at that time. And these were kids who were left behind because all the bright ones had already flocked out to big places like Chandigarh, Delhi, Kota and all.
Correct.
And these were the guys who said like, "Hamara kuch nahi hoga," like we are just out of hope, out of everything. And we didn't teach them much, right? We inspired, we like instilled confidence and little bit teaching, whatever we remembered. And that created this change and impact.
Wow.
And that gave us confidence that if there is so much to do here, so much, then why are we chasing retail and all that?
Fascinating.
And then it just, the rest is history, just continued from there.
Wow. No, this reminds me of there's this researcher called Saras Saraswati who's researched on how entrepreneurs think entrepreneurially. And the first principle is a bird in hand. Start with what you have. Don't wait for something to happen or whatever, right? So she says entrepreneurs always start with what do I know, what do I have in hand, and how can I begin my journey? And yours is a classic example of that, right? That you found something, saw it working, and said that, hey, why don't we build on this?
Yeah, I agree with that. In fact, I have reflected on this also sometimes in the past, and exactly what you said, is what we also discussed with. I remember discussing this with someone, and I can't agree more. And there's a lot behind it, right? So one is it takes time, right? And unfortunately, sometimes in these fast times, I get a lot of entrepreneurs who come and like say that, what would be the next big thing, right? I'm not able to, I want to do something, but I'm not able to get any idea because whatever idea I either think is done by someone or like, I don't know whether it would scale and all. So there is a lot of noise. Let me just put it in this. There's a lot of noise out there. And my advice to almost most of that is probably, let's say, when I say that in my journey, I never thought that step would lead to Vedantu today.
Exactly.
There is both positive and a not so positive side to it. The not so positive side to it is that you need to have that patience and that this much time it takes sometimes, right?
Exactly.
On the positive side, it's like a Zen thing, right? It's the Zen philosophy says this, right? If you have to scale, you descale. If you have to, like that's what it is, right? So it's similar, very similar. You don't think about what will scale, what will not scale. You don't think about, okay, what is hot out there and what is like in demand out there. So you actually start basic, you start inside. You start like, what are you good at? What gives you energy? What do you feel passionate about? So you're able to just find something meaningful in that. That's beautiful. Because why? Anything takes time. You know this like better than anyone. And if you dive something so deeply and passionately, you will find that energy to actually just continue that journey for however long it takes.
Beautifully said. Lovely. Wonderfully said. So let's shift to the next gear then, Vamsi. So you did Lakshya for 7 years. Then you got acquired by MT Educare in 2012. So what prompted you to get into that exit? And immediately after, a year or two later, you started off with Vedantu again. So what was that transition period like for you guys?
Yeah. So the story which not many people know is that Vedantu as an idea was incepted and started even before that acquisition. In fact, to be very honest, the acquisition or probably the merger happened because we wanted to do Vedantu. So it was very organic, Madan. What happened in Lakshya was we obviously taught there. Very, very gratifying. I can safely say that anything and everything I know about teaching and education comes from not Vedantu, but comes from
7 years of learning, of teaching that you did there.
Precisely. So that was beautiful. But ultimately, after 6 years, I remember we scaling it up across time 4 or 5 locations, because as an entrepreneur, again, whatever impact you see, you want to scale that, right? You want that impact to reach many more folks. While we were scaling, we saw huge problems. We were not able to scale effectively in tier 3, tier 4 locations. Containing teachers, getting teachers, and sustaining and retaining them there in these tier 3, tier 4 locations was a big hassle. And this is, I'm saying, after a lot of try, right? We just spent some 6-7 years on it. So this was 2011 times. So 9 to 11 is when we scaled this. So 2006 to 9 was just one location. 2009 to 11 was like scaling up. After scaling up, these were the challenges. And 2011, we realized that, what do we do about this? And that's when technology as an idea and a thought came. Thanks to obviously many other technology companies which were coming up at that time. InMobi obviously was there. Flipkart was there. These were big inspirations. And so Pulkit, we freed him and said that you go to Bangalore and figure out something in technology. So that's when Pulkit came here to Bangalore. And within 1 year, we realized can't do both, have to focus on one. And this is, I would say, a second turning point in our life. That it was this very strong temptation to just be at Lakshya, because, I mean, all being said and done, it was a very highly profitable venture as well, bootstrapped. So nothing, no external, like no investors, nothing. Bootstrapped, operating at almost like 15% PAT margin kind of a thing. And it was a cash cow. And we were 26, 27. So it was like a lifestyle thing, right? Okay, right. But we, like, we saw that impact will not be scaled there. And that's when we had a very, very tough call in our lives that let's decide. Impact at scale has always been the goal. So decided on Vedantu. So if I actually go into archives, you will see Vedantu as a name incorporated in 2011 itself.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we started in 2014. Yeah. So that was a point. And we then wanted to find a good home because people were very important for us. Lakshya was almost like a family. MD Care was a very good organization. So we knew them from before. So this deal happened in 2012, served on the transition for 2 years. And then Pulkit was anyways in Bangalore. So we did come up, same team, same co-founding team. And started Vedantu.
Wow. No, and also
to that point, but then if you look at it, Vedantu was started to solve exactly the problem we faced at Lakshya, which was how do you get good teachers to teach the students.
But at scale, that's where technology played a big role. Now it's also fascinating to see, the co-founding team be together after so many years. So even at Meritrack, when people ask me what are the mantra behind the success of Meritrack, I keep saying that the three of us stuck it together for a good 12 years, right? Before Manipal acquired it fully, and that's very hard, especially when you're friends and you kind of had to take decisions in the interest of the company. So what's been your learnings and mantra for getting this co-founding team as a solid rock together?
Yeah, I mean, that's a very important factor. Let me just put it in this way. Behind any company, especially during the start, and especially when you're starting up. This is an area where I thank my stars really, because this is an area where you don't really have a lot of control.
Exactly.
And you're just lucky sometimes, to get. Today I can say that I just love, Anand and Pulkit, like probably even more than the business, because that comes first and this comes second. So that love is most important. This is a little philosophical, but that's true. I think if there's love, then rest everything you tread over that, right? But anyways, that is my example. It's not really applicable everywhere else. So, and love also takes time to come, right? It's not that in first day you do that. We have been together for over 2 decades now. So I have both the positive and the negative, both actually I have examples on, Madan. In fact, the first thing I would say is try to have people who you are comfortable with. That's like the bare minimum. It's like just like a marriage, right? So if you just can't go and have a casual time, a free time, spend with that person, or just have a coffee or a beer with that person, it's not worth it. Spend time with that. So that
is super important there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a litmus test, I would say. Many people try to optimize for functional efficiencies, right?
Competencies, and yeah.
Me, then the other person. That is also like, I mean, I'm not saying it doesn't have its merit, but this one is greater than that. So you having that comfort and like, you wanting to spend time with that person, being comfortable with that person is more important, greater than the other functional kind of like, synergies, I would say. So don't over-optimize for those transactional synergies, optimize for like this connect and this energy, and those things is more important. Once that happens, then it's all about hit and try. There's no other way. I would say once you start, it's just like any other relationship. You need to work on it. It just can't that, okay, fine, I have a co-founder and things will work out. No, it doesn't work out, right? You need to find time and you need to work on it, as in any relationship, as in friendship, as in like, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, doesn't like you need to work on the relationship. Same here. You need to work on it. And that essentially requires you to even have some open heart conversations early on. And I remember we doing that, right? Very early. First, second month itself at Lakshya, like in every their own different routines. Like I used to go late. I used to like, I'm a night owl. So like, that someone used to be early morning. So these small to big hassles, right? Just sat down, spoke openly, like this is what I love. This is what probably irritates, right? And when you have that conversation, that first of all gives that comfort and openness. And when you, and we are continue to do that, that actually adds a lot, right? It's like a therapeutic session, right? So those things really help. Not doing that, makes it boil over, and then like, sometimes it happens. So those are some of the things, but I will not say that we did not have our own share of like, challenges. There were a lot of challenges. Like, for example, one thing I can tell you, like, the four of us started Lakshya, and in fact, even Vedantu, but one of us in 2017 timeframe decided to move on, right? And when and I'm sure, like, I'm sure you also know this, whenever that happens, it is obviously not like the best of the experiences, right? But that is the whole point, right? You need to also let go these things, because not all of it is meant to last forever, right? So they're trying to be, as I would say, realistic is more important, right? So the point is, you need to definitely try to make it work, but sometimes you do have that feeling, right? Sometimes it can happen in the first month itself, sometimes it can happen after 5 years, or so on and so forth. So you need to also have that comfort to have a realistic conversation, and these things matter a lot and come and bite you a lot when you scale, Madan. I'm sure like we have not gone there to the scale part, but let's say in the initial part it's still okay, but when you scale, many things, right? Okay, who gets to be the CEO, right? Who and once a company scales, then investor will also come in and say that, oh, equal shareholding, non-equal shareholding, and all that kind of stuff happens, right? And those things are all very challenging. And I mean, that's a very big topic in itself, and we can discuss about it later. I think the short answer is being as candid and open and having that open conversation early on is helpful. And I encourage everyone to do that.
No, it's so, I think, so resonate with your points about enjoying the company of the three people, and knowing that you can agree to disagree, but end of the day, there is a decision that we take, which is the interest of the company and the larger interest of the company, and everybody then sticks to that decision, come what may, right? Now let's get to the current journey that you've been on, Vamsi. Especially, I think 2 questions, right? There must have been an inflection point at Vedantu when you thought that now this is really going to go big. And of course, the journey of fundraising, and then the whole journey of being a unicorn, which is more an indication that you're on to larger things, right? So if you were to reflect on those inflection points in your own journey at Vedantu over the last 3-4 years, or 4-5 years, what would you say have been the key inflection points on your journey? And therefore, what are the learnings from that?
Yeah. Lot of iterations early on. So in fact, between 2012 and 14 itself, before we started this current avatar of Vedantu, when Pulkit was in Bangalore, he was trying a lot of B2B versions around education and stuff like that. And although that's also a pretty big opportunity and stuff, what we realized very early on is it's very important to stick to your DNA. And that's what I call as people call it as product market fit. There's also something called a DNA fit, or sometimes people call it as a founder market fit, whatever terms to use. But that DNA and identifying that is important. So we very soon realized that after 7-8 years of doing Lakshya, which is predominantly B2C, we have that connect with the students. We enjoy that. We get energy from that. And B2B was not that, right? It didn't have that, at least, right? It has many other things, right? So again, there's no good and bad here. It's just that what do you resonate with, right? And we realized that, we get this, and even if that's hard to do, that is definitely something which we need to pursue and persist. So that learning happened. So that flip happened. Whatever we created in those 1.5 years Pulkit was here, we actually again had to sell off that, to someone, get some money. And then in 2014 is really when we started live tutoring, right? What we are doing at Vedantu. Very early, very tough start. I would say 4G was not there in India. 2G was there. 3G was patchy. And today, obviously, it's mainstream. But at that time, doing something was challenging. But that's what the belief in the concept should be so strong that even if it's challenging, you pursue, right? So that's the first turning point, I would say, the first inflection point when we said that, this is what it takes to create a superior learning experience. Because in Lakshya, this is how we taught. And that was supremely successful. At that time, all education companies, all EdTech companies were doing asynchronous recorded videos. Right. So record videos and deliver. We came up and say that, we don't believe in that. We believe that this is what gave us success and Lakshya. So we will do this. Although technology today doesn't permit that, doesn't matter. Let's just still start and we'll figure out. So that happened. And so it took a long time. It took almost 2.5-3 years for it to get any kind of an inflection point, I would say. So 2014 was when we started was the first turning point. The second inflection point actually happened when we got our first paid student for this. And Madan, I can't tell you I still remember that evening, right? That was a big validation, because I personally believe that even if we find one person who's willing to pay for this online class, that one will become 10, will become 100, will become 1,000, and whatever. So I still remember her name. She's Aishwarya, and she was just doing this from Bangalore only, and she paid, and that was like a big inflection point for me as a belief system, because someone is paying for online classes.
Somebody is willing to pay for the service. Yeah.
So that happened in 2014 around October. September. And that was one inflection point. The other big inflection point actually happened 3 years later. So this was 1-to-1, and 1-to-1 is still expensive. It was almost like $500 per hour kind of a thing. Yeah. And we knew for a country like India, it doesn't scale. So we had to innovate. We had to innovate on the model. So we innovated, took almost 2.5-3 years experimenting and all that. 2017, third quarter is when we launched one-to-many. And that, I remember the first session, I think Anand took or Pulkit took, I don't remember. And some 120 students came for that. And we were able to do that session in one go. And the rating of that session was incredible. Right? Out of 5, some 4.75 or 4.8 something. And that was like a big turning. Because how we knew that if the kids like this kind of a thing, right? It's obviously not as personalized as one-on-one, but still, if the kids are liking it, correct. And the price point we could reduce was almost 1/5, and the margins
100x,
yeah, and the margin we could give the teacher is also high, so we can get the best of the teachers in this, and then rest is history. So that I would remember is the big one. So yeah, these are some of the things I remember.
Yeah, I still remember you used to play ads on Bangalore radio. and my son was 4 years old. We sent him to a Montessori, and he didn't like the teacher. Once he came home, and I still remember that he came home and said, "I don't want the teacher. Get off the teacher." I said, "Who will teach you?" And he told me, "Vedantu hai na." I still have a hearty laugh saying that, boss. Look at the jingle we used to hear in my car when I used to drop him to the school every day.
Yeah. We did that too.
So, Vamsi, now, if you were to reflect again on your journey, especially the last 5-6 years, and if you were to do it all over again, what are the mistakes you'll avoid?
Yeah, that's a very good one. Although I'll answer that, but let me just start with a disclaimer. No matter how much I say, and this is something which in fact is a deja vu, because I asked the same question with some of my mentors, like, so I asked this question with Naveen of InMobi and Bini, right, and and Harsha speaking. I remember them saying that, what, these are some of the things, but we were also told that, but we still committed that.
Right.
And so we'll start with that disclaimer. But having said that, I think there are a lot of them. So I'll just focus on the big ones. I believe the time. First thing is like go with your DNA. So I definitely think the mid 1.5 year, what we sort of like focused on the B2B and all those things was a sheer was a waste of time, right? I mean, now I can say, but we learned from many things from it. Still, the broader scheme of things. So stick with your DNA is very important and very critical. That's one. The second thing is when you are doing a model, right, and when you know that this model won't scale beyond a point, right? It's important to do it because you want to first understand your first principle questions. For example, for Vedantu, the first principle question was, will anyone study online? Will anyone teach online? Those are the first principle questions, right? And so you need to create an MVP to try and test that. And 1-to-1 was the perfect MVP for us to do that. So we did it. But once you do that and you realize that this 500 price point won't scale, for example, then you need to very quickly iterate and get to it. So I believe that we took almost 2.5 years. I definitely think it could have been done in 1 year maybe, right? So I think that so the mistake there was we tried to force to make one-on-one scalable. And the math doesn't work, right? It just doesn't at least at that time. And but why did we do it, right? We do it because we had funding, right? So very early in our journey, we had obviously Axel, Tiger, second-time entrepreneurs. We had our own money. That's another thing. Right? So you have the luxury to commit some of this, and that is what also causes a lot of these problems, right? So I think being very focused on the first principles is very critical. And if you know that this is not something which will scale tomorrow, today you are able to scale it because of XYZ reasons. But if tomorrow this won't scale, then it is very important that 50%, if not more, amount of energy someone is focusing on cracking that problem. I get it. I understand there is practical implications on it that you just say that, I won't want to scale. There are external implications of it.
Correct.
I'm sure it's under a lot of pressures, tremendous pressures on growth, blah, blah, blah. So you just can't abandon anything. It takes a lot of energy and to do that. But still, let's 50-50 or 60-40. But unfortunately, what many of us do is 90-10.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Don't crack the new problems unless until it's too late, right?
Exactly.
And that's definitely one thing I mistake. Then there are a lot of scale related mistakes, Madan, and there's a long laundry list of that. I would say one thing. Let me just take a shot at it. Then we can probably go on deep. But the other thing is when you are scaling, having a very, very strong grip on the culture and the kind of people you are getting.
Exactly. I was about to come to that, Vamsi. I mean, I'm amazed at the scale that, that each of you achieved in terms of organizational scale itself, right? I mean, getting 2,000, 3,000, I'm sure if you look at people who have been through the gates, that number would be even larger, given the churn, etc. What is your people management mantra? I've always wondered, and I had also, before starting off, I'd worked for a couple of years. I had seen a few managers manage people. But where did you pick up the people management skills? What's your philosophy there, Vamsi?
Unfortunately, never been to a B school or anything of that sort. So don't have any
sometimes
formal...
it's fortunate because you don't have any of the baggages or the legacy learnings that you carry.
Yeah, there's a good and bad both, but yeah, I do think that there is some structured frameworks which is helpful. But yeah, you don't need to be school to learn that. You can always learn that separately. Anyway, just coming to your question, Madan, being very authentic and genuine and true is the most important thing. Like, so anything is like a brand, right? Brand, personality, everything is unique. You need to have consistency in your behaviors, right? And as long as you are consistent in that, people who resonate with you will come and follow you, right? And again, sorry.
Bless you.
Again, following you is not important. Following the I'm sorry.
Yes.
So following you is not important. Following the vision is even more important. So many of times, leaders do this mistake that they try. So, there are then cults which get formed, right? I personally believe that more than lead, like I say this, like I don't want anyone to join because of Vamsi. I want actually people to join because of the vision, right?
Vedantu's vision,
then that's more sustainable. And for that, what you need to do is actually be a torchbearer and evangelizer of the vision. Be very, extra communicative about what it is. And then you will get your kind of people, right? And again, there's no right and wrong about it, right? A person who would resonate with the Google vision might work, might not work for us, right? It's perfectly. You just need someone who will work for Vedantu, right? And over time, you get a better sense about what is that persona is, right? And what is that things which work well and which does not work well. You just need to be consistent about it. You need to be genuine. You need to be authentic. That's one. The management principles, what I have learned is all from education, by the way. Right? It's very, it's very, and I'm sure it's a very different answer. But I have learned, like whatever I apply, a lot of it is inspired from teaching and learning. So I'm a teacher, right, at heart. I do believe that the teacher-student relationship is very unique. When a teacher is teaching a student, he or she doesn't have any ego in that, right? And if the teacher does, the student does well, I mean, the teacher actually is very proud about it, right? I do believe that why can't a manager be as invested in his folk as probably a teacher is in his students, right? Wherein I believe the highest ROI which a manager can get out of his time is actually, to teach something, maybe a formal, but even if not a formal training, even in a one-on-one, actually, give some value. Right? And be genuine, be humble, be empathetic, right? As a teacher, you are empathetic with the student. So yeah, there's a lot of that which goes into it. And it's also very, for Vedantu, it works because it's a natural kind of like a resonance.
Exactly.
Yeah, there is no dissonance in it. Correct. And I do believe that the perfect work environments and are created out of resonance, not dissonance. So if who you are what you are behaving, are what you are exhibiting, and the kind of people you are also like that, that's like a resonance, right? And also what the business is, right? So even to the outside and inside. So I think as close to resonance as you can operate, it's always great, right? So yeah, that's
I think it reminds me of the famous words that Gandhiji had said, that happiness and peace is when who you are, what you say, what you do, and what your thoughts are in complete, synchronization, right? And so you're just applying that at a very fundamental level.
Yeah.
Before, we've got a bunch of questions, Vamsi, but before I open up and then ask a few of our folks here to address their questions, if we were to have this chat 30th April 2032, 10 years from now. And I want to ask you, Vamsi, so what do you think your journey over the last 10 years has been? What would you ideally want to be saying?
Oh, that really gets me thinking. Nice.
So where do you go from here for the next 10 years, just as a time horizon?
Impact at scale has always been our driving factor. That is what energizes us, me, Pulkit, Anand, the whole company. And that is, in some form or the other, that is truly what I would want to say, right? That, that quality teaching, obviously through Vedantu, I mean, Vedantu is also a medium to do that, right? Overarching, what I love is like Vedantu has been able to inspire 10 other companies to do this, and today live classes, live online classes is a mainstream thing, right? So one company can't do like everything, right? It takes system. So we want to be really at the front drivers of inspiring those transformations and innovations in education. That is for sure, right? And I believe, since you've spoken about the next 10 years, I believe there are 2-3 things which are fundamental to do that. One is we need to disrupt the price points. The other thing is we need to go more deeper into languages, vernacular, and stuff like that. Like, whole model innovations needs to happen, right? But more than anything, I would probably 10 years later, I would be super proud to say that from today's like whatever 4.5% to 5% of the penetration, I would love to say that this has gone up to, let's say, 20% kind of like a penetration. And if that happens, I naturally know that millions and millions of students will now benefit because they now have an access to a high quality teacher at a very, very low cost.
Correct.
Right? So today that number is 250,000 in a year. That I think if it goes to 10 million, I'll be a super happy man. The other thing I also believe is India is uniquely poised to create a global impact. So I think it will be a massive under leveraging of that potential if we just think country, right? I mean, education has nothing to do with one country, right? Education is
exactly.
And I do believe that India has that power to become the global superpower of education for the whole world. And this time, I definitely think that I would be super happy to see that impact not just happening here, but globally, right? So yeah, these are the 2 things.
Wonderful. No, there are lots and lots of learnings and thoughts to ingest here over the last 45 minutes or so, Vamsi. Let's open it up for the next 15-20 minutes to a bunch of questions. Continuing on the same vein, let me ask Sudhir from OSAT. Sudhir, do you want to turn on your video or audio and ask your question? Hey, Sudhir. You need to unmute.
Yes. Yeah, I have unmuted myself.
Yes.
Hey, nice talking to you, Madan. Nice talking to you, Vamsi. I'm part of an organization called OSAT, One School at a Time. We are a not-for-profit organization. So I'm always on one hand, and we work primarily in rural spaces. We don't work in cities, and the goal is, and we are strictly focused on infrastructure part, not teaching and other things, creating infrastructure. So one of the things, one of the challenges I have, and I want to bounce it off from you. There are many EdTech players like yourself, and these are all wonderful things you guys are doing, and that is kind of more on the urban city. And even if you talk about B cities, C cities, these are more city folks who can afford it. But what do you think is the vision for the majority India? India lives in its villages, right? So on one hand, you can strengthen public education. That is definitely weak. A lot needs to be done, and it is a lot beyond what governments by themselves can do. But what is that opportunity space where EdTech companies like yours can help? I'm not talking about making rural kids IIT engineers or whatever, giving them basic knowledge of education, better math, better science, better languages, so that they can survive in the world. Because compared to what me and Madan went to school, what the world was compared to you and what it is now, it's a whole different world. How do we prepare India for that kind of thing?
So great question. So they're and obviously at the center and the core of probably mission statements of most of the folks, right? And who are doing something meaningful in education. See, I think at a very broad level, if you look at the access which the kids have been able to enjoy because of all these innovations by EdTech companies, it's just phenomenal. And this I can tell you from my own experience. I've been in this space for 16 years now. And I can see, like, earlier the kids in, let's say, Barnala would not have access to this. Now, forget paid access, right? And I'll come down to that later. Even at a free level, there is so much access which all these companies have been able to create. I'll just talk about Vedantu. We have an exclusive channel on Tata Sky. We have an exclusive channel on Airtel. We have solution to all major books, everything off free on web and app. Every month we get 35 million unique students for free coming and accessing that. 35 million. Wow. I think around 300 million kids in the country, I think 90 or 95 million have access to internet and stuff like that. So out of that 35 million per month, right? We have YouTube in which we put out very high quality free content, 68 million views per month, right? All this is free. I'm not even talking about paid stuff, right? All this is free, right? So this was non-existent when I used to study, right? Or any one of us used to study. Now, on top of that, there is innovations which are required. And I believe that, this whole thing will actually force more innovations. I'll again talk about two innovations, which is like, to your point. So the space you're working in would be very relevant for you, right? So at Vedantu, we are now developing AI teacher technology. We actually recently launched it. Like, we've been working on it for almost 1.5 years. We recently launched it. I think it came out yesterday or day before yesterday in PR, right? And there we have further disrupted the price point by 1/5. So just look at this innovation, right? When we started Vedantu in 1-to-1, it was 500 rupees per hour. Then in 2017-18, we went to 100 rupees per hour because of that one-to-many. And then further it iterated, it came down to, last year it was 60 rupees. Today with AI Live, it will be 10 rupees per hour.
Wow.
Right? 10 rupees per hour. Wow. Right? Just that. And it's like, so I think it's so much more innovation, which is need of the hour. Then I think the team came up with some kind of a box, which is they're calling with some V box, in which you just put some dongle and it can go to a village, and that whole area has an internet which can provide students access to to take classes or take some stuff online, and we can actually put that in government schools and stuff like that, and working with few governments on that. So this is just to give a sample about the kind of innovations which will happen if we encourage more and more entrepreneurship in the space. And I personally am a very, very big believer of that. And probably the reason I'm actually also coming here and doing this talk is actually towards that. Like, I love entrepreneurship. I love edupreneurs, massive respect for them. And like, if anything we can do to pay it forward, I mean, we all need to do that.
Beautiful. Now, Vamsi, I think we'll definitely work together and take you up on that offer. There are lots of passionate entrepreneurs. And sometimes I feel that instead of trying to solve fragmented problems in a fragmented way, given that the market is so huge and the opportunity is so large, if we can collaborate in some way and start building things together, the time to impact, the cost to impact, and the ability to do it at a larger scale will be much, much larger. So maybe I'm just having a seed of an idea on how do we align some of the entrepreneurs to start learning, working together, when pursuing their own commercial paths, right? Let me get to another question by Aarti. Aarti, please do share your...
Yeah. Hi, Vamsi. So I was just listening to your conversation, and I was just thinking, of course, we are coming up with a lot of solutions and providing a lot of content to the student. But I mean, when I talk to students and when I interact with them, I find them lost. There is no guidance as such. Although the content is there, everything is available, there is no proper guidance to them. right? And this is the biggest challenge, that they don't know. Earlier it was like, engineering and medical, other things which everybody wanted to be into. Today we have alternate career opportunities, but nobody is there to guide them. Even faculties are not doing that. EdTechs are even not doing that. They have their way of earning money in their own ways. So I think more than, and maybe if you want to add to it, I think this is bigger challenge compared to access to knowledge base which is available right now to the students.
Thanks.
And what needs to be done? Because
thanks, Dati. And if I can add to that, Vamsi, see, with UNICEF and all the other work that I do, every time we've interacted with kids, urban, rural, wherever,
yes,
the thing that most of them start off by saying is, I don't know what to do.
Exactly.
Right? Where do I go? Because there's so many options out there. How do I choose? And how do I make the choices? And the choices have several constraints, right? There's a financial constraint, there's a interest constraint, there's a knowledge constraint, whatever.
Yeah. No, I definitely think it's a real problem. And in fact, if you remember from the story in Barnala, the inception of the whole journey itself happened from one of those sessions in the school. I know, completely agree and resonate with that, Aarti and Madan. See, again, I would say situation is much better, because if you just go on YouTube and if you have some basic query, you can search for it. There is enough. People like us who can go and create it and have created frequent. It's not can create, it's have created. It doesn't solve 100% of the problem for sure, but definitely it solves some percentage of the problem.
Correct.
And that is what my whole point is. If that's a problem, right, and it is, right, we need more and more entrepreneurship to come and solve it. See, one thing I can tell you, in education, it's very easy to get lost. And that is also another advice I give to entrepreneurs, that just do what you believe in and do your bit, right? And you can do your bit, right? And a lot of guys are here. I'm sure they're already starting something or thinking of starting something. So I mean, my input is like, if this is a problem, someone feels very strongly about, just go ahead and solve it. And that is why we need more and more entrepreneurship in this country.
No, and I think that's again, coming back to the collaborative effort and learning, maybe that's another conversation we must have for a separate day, Vamsi. Getting a bunch of questions, I'm just going in the order and picking up a few questions that catch my eye. Maheshwari, Manish, are you here? You had an interesting question. Yeah, Manish.
Yeah.
Hi.
That question comes from personal experience.
Sorry, your voice
in the 80s. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Back in the 80s, when I was about to choose, giving away my age, what to study, there was just this hierarchy, right? Beta padhai mein achhe ho to science le lo.
Sorry, your voice is still a little weak, Manish. If you can speak a little louder.
Okay, so it was like, if you're good in studies, you take science. Within science, you take engineering. And after 2 years in engineering, you realize this is not my cup of tea. So how do you escape from there? You do an MBA. And then fast forward to now, when I have 2 college-going graduates. And it's the same question. There are no tests. There is no structured way of finding out what really is that career that they commit to, which is an overlap between what they like, what they're good at, what the world will do, what the world needs. And I haven't found anywhere. Maybe I just don't know.
No, true. So, I couldn't get the whole part, but from whatever I could understand, the perspective I got is like, there is so much out there. How do the kid know what to do, right? And are there any programs or any structured stuff around helping a kid or student or anyone discover their passion, discover
exactly,
rather than just putting them under this, that, right? So it's a big one. This is a big question. All of us in education, all of us have gone through this journey ourselves. It's a big one. Obviously, I'm not today I'm not going to propose a solution, neither do I have. But what I can tell you is the perspective around this, in the sense, it's not just an education problem to be solved. It's a socio-economic problem, right? And this has a very strong attachment to the socio-economic fabric of the society where that kid is born in, because everyone, the need states are different. So the person whose roti kapda makan itself is not satiated. If you go and do all this thing, that resonance won't happen only there. Whereas the same thing, like for example, if you go to a first world country, right, so for example, in US also in 40s and 50s, the uptake of engineering and science was like what it is in India today. Obviously, when you get surplus and you believe now, it's not that you need to do this and that to earn a guaranteed money, then you start going into like whatever you want, right? Which can be arts, which can be anything, right? So that freedom of mind and thought for you to be able to pursue what you, even if I tell you, these are all the things available, for you to actually pursue that requires a kind of freedom, which is a socio-economic thing, not an education problem to be solved, right? And so it's a very big topic, Manish. So I'll not attempt to go into that today, but let me just put it in this way. What we can do as individuals in that is try to optimize for more exposure. Right? Now, a school just can't do anything. So one of the things which I tell my students is read, just read. They just get exposed. Doesn't matter what you read, just read, because those exposures will actually help some of this, what you just mentioned, not all. Again, socioeconomic can't be helped like by this, but at least if, let's say, that's not a problem, and just someone doesn't know like, okay, what to do, just read, just get exposed, right? As much different stuff you get exposed, it will open up the dimension of your mind where you can then just go and then say like, okay, fine, this looks interesting, this doesn't, right? This is one angle, but it's a big topic. And
absolutely.
Can I just add one brief comment? I think I'm calling from Singapore. Here, the country has nothing except human resources, and the government is so good, but they haven't solved this problem. In India, 1/6 of humanity, every small piece of human resources wasted is a huge number in absolute numbers.
Absolutely.
So if that is the case, then maybe in the PPP space, Ministry of HRD or whatever, not that it's been really doing great guns in India right now. That's the space in which this could work.
No, I'm completely with you, Manish. There's so much of unlimited potential that exists. How do you leverage that, right? I know we are running out of time, Vamsi. We had extended it. I want to take one last comment and a question, especially by a very committed partner in the space. AWS EdStart has been passionately chipping away at this whole aspect of EdTech entrepreneurs. So Deepika is here from AWS. Deepika, you had a question for Vamsi.
Hey Vamsi, nice to meet you. First, foremost, this is not a planted question. This is literally, I was, very deeply, into this conversation. I think this was very personal. So loved, the responses and the questions. One area that came across, while you both were discussing about, edupreneurs giving back to young founders or to others who are, doing something similar in this space. We continuously think about that every day, right? So accelerators and programs who are really supporting this ecosystem are continuously thinking about it. So one question that always comes on top of my mind is, do you see other or edupreneurs who are established, who are doing well, who have lots of insights to share with others, having a motivation, having interest, having time at hand to do something like this? Because this would only succeed if there is a sort of, the demand and supply both meet together. So that's just my question to you, and maybe, some tips for us to think creatively around this line.
Yeah, no, lovely question and input, Deepika. I do believe so. I 100% believe so. Because I think one thing which we should be all very thankful about the Indian startup ecosystem is it's like it just pays it forward, and there is a very, very, very strong culture of doing that. Like
Exactly.
I am where I am sitting on the giants of the shoulders, right? And we love to pay it forward, and I'd love to pay it forward because we've been paid forward, right as well. So I genuinely think that so the answer to your question is a strong yes, right? Now, how the structure of it, right? The format of it, all those things are stuff to be figured out and to be done. But I mean, not just edupreneurs. Okay, let me just take a step back. Entrepreneurs, like entire startup ecosystem in India, like I think it's a beautiful culture there, and we owe it to pay it forward. Talking about edupreneurs, I think more so, because in education, if you don't do that, then you are in education at the end of the day.
Exactly. So, and there's so much to figure out, right? I mean, you build this knowledge over years, I would say. So it's always good to pass it on.
No, and on that note, I think that's a wonderful note to draw this session to a close. One of the things we will do is all the other questions we will definitely collate it, pass it on, and maybe Vamsi, in the next session that we do, we will pick up some of these elements in the conversations. But I think you beautifully said it. It's all about paying forward, and TIE as an ecosystem, I have benefited immensely. Many times I think that if not for networks and genuine paying it forward, I wouldn't have succeeded as an entrepreneur. There were several times when I had a shutdown moment in Meritrack when I said, "Chalo yaar, band kar do, kuch nahi ho raha hai." And somebody said, "Boss, pagal hai kya? Aisa karo, ho sakta hai." Right? And I think that's the spirit that we need to operate. And I truly appreciate you and salute you for resonating with that spirit, Vamsi, because we need a lot more entrepreneurs to solve the complex, wicked problems that we have so that the world can be a better place. And let's kind of chug along and get as many believers involved in the space as possible, and let's work together.
Absolutely, Madan. I mean, when we were starting up, you guys were the inspiration. We used to come and think too. I think because of a lot of things you did, we learned we are where we are.
I remember meeting you in a Delhi workshop that we had done way back in 2011, 12 or something like that, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's, I can't agree more. It's all about paying it forward and just trying to propel the impact. Like, through ourselves and through others. So love this conversation. I felt very energized doing this. So I normally do. So there was this thing, and like if that was being able to add any value to anyone, that's great.
Oh, I think this has been immensely useful last 1 hour. Lots of learnings, Vamsi, and as we said, this is just the beginning. Look forward to a lot more conversations, doing stuff together. And folks, thanks for participating. Thanks for all the questions. As I said, we will definitely take it up. Maybe Vamsi, we'll send you can send us a voice clip. We will play those around or whatever. We'll figure out a way to, take some more insights from these conversations. But again, a huge shout out and thank you from all of us, Vamsi, for being who you are. More power to you. And I look forward to that 10th year conversation we will have. And I'm sure, we can say that, oh, aisa bola tha, abhi, look at where we are. And I think that's the beauty of this space. So thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining in, and wish you all a wonderful evening and a great weekend. See you soon, Vamsi.
Thank you, Madan. Lovely. And thanks all the best. More power to all of us.